Welcome to Psyber Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. My name's Josh, and today I have Bob, Heather, Matthew, and our special guest star, Ben, visiting us from Cinema Gulp. Very glad to have y'all on the show. Today we are talking about the 2017 movie Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I always look forward to watching this on my rewatch of the MCU, but this movie, every time I watch it, it reminds me of how much I enjoyed it when I first saw it, except in a completely different way. Because now when I watch it, it feels a little different. I guess when the first time I saw it, I had mixed feelings about it because it didn't feel so much like one straightforward story as much as a bunch of like short vignettes on each of the Guardians that kind of were each put together to make the final story. Now, when I watch it, it's more like a full story. I don't know if I'm making sense because I don't know.
No, I get
it's different to me now.
I get what you're talking about. I mean, basically, it is. I mean, it focuses more. I noticed, there's a lot of focus on Drax has like a bigger role. In this one, you get a little bit of Mantis, who's new in this one, who gets introduced. You've got, there's kind of backstory, really. Obviously. Yeah, each of them kind of gives their own and kind of expands. This is kind of their character expansion story. We talked about that in phase 2, how it was kind of like more in depth in each character, and this was obviously theirs.
And you also have like the growth and birth of friendships in this one as side things. You have Rocket and Yondu building up a friendship. You also have Gamora and her name
Nebula.
Nebula.
I'm sorry. You have Gamora and Nebula sort of working through their stuff together. There's so many little great side arcs in this movie.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little better than the first one because the first one, you don't know anybody. It's like it was just all these random strangers. To me, it didn't even feel part of Marvel. I said that before. It just felt like something completely separate, other than maybe a mention of Infinity Stone. But they were all new characters, and you really didn't have any invested, sense for any of them. And so I think this one and exploring all the characters a little more made it that much more interesting to me. So,
yeah, Matthew.
I don't really like this movie.
Just coming right out the gate with that.
Well, we're all, Josh.
It's okay to disagree.
Yeah. I think
everyone's welcome here.
I didn't really like it when it first came out. Like, I really didn't like it. I like it a little bit more now. Again, when we get lower quality stuff, this one kind of moves up the totem pole. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a sharp drop in quality. I do like some of the relationships that we get to see here, but I also feel like some of the characters don't grow at all from the first movie, and I find that to be a little frustrating, especially on a rewatch after knowing, what they do end up becoming. It felt like there wasn't a whole lot of character development outside of, the whole Yondu, somehow he's Peter's dad. That doesn't make sense to me still, but I don't know. I think James Gunn was unable to capture lightning twice in a bottle.
I'll agree with you on the sort of rushed element of Yondu and Peter now suddenly caring about him. I mean, I'm not saying that couldn't have worked, but it did feel a little rushed.
Right. It was just suddenly they have a couple quippy lines there at the end when they're fighting ego. And I know I'm getting a little bit of ahead, but we were talking about the relationships. And that's the one that always sticks out to everyone in this movie and then they get really sad when Yondu dies. But I don't know. I think he's a terrible person. I mean, he traffics children. No, what does that say about him as a character? Anyway.
Well, he didn't.
He did.
We can talk about that later. He
we can get to that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So. I was gonna bring up the whole, this is post Civil War. We've got obviously this expanded the Marvel universe in the sense that we get we get the mention of Ego being a Celestial, and we don't, Eternals comes out a couple years later. But we're back in space primarily for this one. There's really a little bit of Earth-based stuff at the beginning with them, with Kurt Russell de-aged, Marvel in their de-aging moment there when they were de-aging everybody, like in Ant-Man and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, I liked the opening to the movie, kind of set the tone right away. I was getting Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom vibe with the whole dance sequence with Groot. That was how that movie opened, with Kate Capshaw singing and that type of thing. But, where do you guys feel like at this moment, coming up to this moment, kind of where this fits in with the MCU and where it was at, at this particular time?
Well, go ahead.
It's hard to say, because since Volume 1 and Volume 2 take place within, I think, 6 months of each other.
Possibly a little less. I think.
Yeah, maybe like 4 months. Yeah. They're both so self-contained. Obviously, you have Thanos in the first one, and like you said, you have the Celestial in this one. They don't, even with this one, they don't. They want to stay their own thing, and it's very evident until you get
there is a single mention of an Infinity Stone in this one.
Yeah.
There was?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
The Ego just tells Peter that he found him because he heard of a guy who was able to hold an Infinity Stone.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's the only mention of anything having to do with the rest of the MCU at large at this point.
Yeah, it does still feel segregated from MCU as a whole.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just because we know some of these characters at this point, it felt a tiny bit more connected, I guess, but maybe just connected to itself. Who knows?
I do find it interesting that there's such a short gap between the two movies, because that's uncharacteristic of most of the Marvel movies.
You mean timeline wise?
Yeah, time lapse. Yeah. This is the third shortest lapse between movies. The only ones that were shorter were between what was it? Oh, Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War, which picks up immediately after the events of Thor Ragnarok. And the second one is between Infinity War and Endgame, which takes place about 3 weeks, I believe, after the end of Infinity War.
Yeah.
That's trivial knowledge that no one cares about.
No.
Yeah. No, everybody cares.
We care.
Everybody cares. We care. We care, Josh. So the opening sequence, let's just kind of, I kind of mentioned it. Let's kind of break that down. Kind of the tone shift from Volume 1, the visual style. Well, the battle with the Sovereign when they're there to help out, protect the batteries, and you get the whole Baby Groot dance sequence. Like I said, I kind of felt like, the question I had in there, is this the most quote unquote James Gunn scene ever? James Gunn, obviously, like Tim Burton and some of the other one, he's got his own particular style when he does stuff. So, how do you guys feel about
definitely, that? And this definitely fits in with his style. I don't know if it's the most James Gunn, because, even in this movie, the scene with the arrow and Come a Little Bit Closer by Jay and the Americans might be even more James Gunn than this scene. Although I don't want anyone to think that I don't appreciate them bringing in Mr. Blue Sky, because that song is freaking awesome.
And it fits so good in that scene. Oh,
yeah,
man.
And so many people had forgotten it too. One of the things, I know we're going to talk about the soundtrack a little bit, but one of the things I love about the soundtrack of Volume 2 is that they bring back so many songs that people had kind of forgotten about. When was the last time anyone thought about Lakeshore Drive by Aliada, James, and Haynes? Was that it, right? Aliada, James, Haynes, I think. I love that song.
I think like the most James Gunn of James Gunn who's ever James Gunn was probably Cherry Bomb in the first volume.
One.
Oh yeah,
the slow motion team walking, and it's epic. But so
they're mimicking the right stuff in that scene where they're walking slowly toward the camera, but instead of looking dignified like in the right stuff, you got Drax, yawning, and Peter Quill is adjusting his crotch.
Well, yeah, and you get that here in Volume 2 too, except it's Yondu, Groot. He's not he's not Baby Groot. He's, I don't know what he is, Toddler Groot. I don't know, what do they call him in this one?
They call him Baby Groot.
Is he still Baby Groot?
They still say Baby Groot, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got him, and then you got then they've got that walk sequence too, Matthew.
I was just going to say, I like the opening sequence. I like that it shows a different perspective because we've seen a bunch of team up action. See, we're talking about when they're fighting the obelisk, right? That's
right. Exactly. Yeah.
I like that it shows it from Baby Groot's perspective. I do find some of the
I miss most of the battle because I'm watching.
You're supposed to.
Well, you're supposed to because it's from his perspective. I think it's a creative choice. I think my issue with it is this is kind of where we feel, and we've discussed this in prior episodes, is where the humor starts to take a forefront. I know that's James Gunn's style, but the humor here is almost childish and elementary in a way. Like Drax. I don't know. He's completely different character than what he was.
Yes, they kind of dumbed him down.
I really don't like that. And I find it would be really ridiculous in the opening sequence.
He just gets dumber and dumber as the movies go on. Because, in the first one, he's stoic and angry and imposing. And he doesn't really do much as far as like brute strength or any fighting skills after the first movie. I mean, he does here and there, but not really.
Yeah. And the only thing that portrays him as being stupid isn't really that he's stupid. He's just from a race of people that have no metaphors, and he takes everything very literally. They got rid of that kind of and just made him an idiot in this movie and going forward, which I don't like because I like the whole, not understanding metaphors bit. That was
I didn't find him to be a complete idiot throughout this movie, but he's definitely dumbed it down from before. But no, I think there were still some moments. But
I mean, they're heading in that direction.
They were embracing people laughing at that.
Yeah. By the time we get to
it was like,
where he thinks that if he stands still, he'll become invisible.
It's like when the joke becomes old and you just keep trying to string it along.
Yeah. But in this one, I mean, not to jump ahead, but it's the final battle of this movie. There's so much going on and so many characters, and it's so fun and, like you guys were saying, colorful. And Star-Lord just puts his pack on his back and he just goes up to the surface to, I guess, save himself and Mantis. It's like, where's his? I want to see him fighting things and punching things. I don't know.
Yeah.
So obviously the heart of the story here is the whole Star-Lord finding his dad thing. We got the whole, at the end of Volume 1, it was like, oh, you're half human, Terran, whatever. You're half human, you're half something else that we haven't seen in a while, and that type of thing. And then, suddenly Kurt Russell, excellent choice, by the way.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's just always an excellent choice for
always an excellent choice.
Yeah. Always.
I mean, he's been an actor forever too. He's been an actor since he was a kid. I was actually going to say, I think that they did a really good job with the aging him. Like, this was one case where you really can't tell. And it's probably because they have so much footage of him when he was younger, because he's been acting since he was a child.
And he still just looks pretty good for his age.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, yeah, he can come back and do Wyatt Earp. I'll watch it.
Definitely.
Tombstone 2.
Except no.
The whole. I know. Should we take a moment? So this whole thing, Peter Quill finally meets his dad. In this one, obviously we've got. Everybody feels that, Yondu tells his story about being sold into slavery, Rocket and his story, everything comes out. It's like everybody's got, we talked about in Phase 2, how it was like character expansion, but everything was like a lot darker and it was like a little bit bleak and you kind of saw everybody kind of laid bare. And this was, as you guys mentioned, it was this particular Guardians of the Galaxy. It's kind of always lived in its own containment. This movie especially is kind of living in its own thing because it's not like making a whole ton of references to everything. Obviously the whole movie, there was identity, abandonment issues, the belonging, you got, Nebula and Gamora, you got everything there. But the heart of the story is Star-Lord and ego. So, how do we feel when Peter Quill, finally gets to meet his dad? We get the opening scene and that type of thing. But how do you think that whole thing rolled out? I'm
actually curious about Heather simply because well, correct me if I'm wrong, but since you're not a comic book reader, you probably didn't know who Ego was. When I went to see the movie, I knew immediately who he was.
Yeah, no, I didn't know who he was at first, and yeah, you're watching that. I mean, I think for me, just story wise, it bothers me that Peter's not more mad at him for not being there. And so I sit there with that kind of psychological, emotional, going on in the background. Like, when's he going to get mad at him? But other than that, he does eventually. Yeah. But he's just, he's struck and he's going to follow him, and
but I'm not talking about when he actually gets angry. I'm talking about, he does ask him a couple of times, why did you leave my mother if you love her so much?
Yeah, he does.
That came later though. I mean, he was like, just, blinded, like, I got to go do this. I've got to find out about him. And I don't know, just psychological thing. If somebody were absent for their whole life, it's not even like he knew him for a while. He didn't know him at all.
Yeah. I think it's because at first he doesn't trust him when he first shows up. Yeah. And then he just feels so, I guess it's, I don't know what this experience would feel like emotionally, but finding who you think is your dad after not, just sort of living as this loner that's adopted to.
And he was enamored by the magical looking planet, and everything looks perfect and beautiful. And so,
but also
Ego was buttering him up big time to look at this, look at these colors, look at this awesome stuff, Yeah.
But also, everybody else is suspicious still.
Yeah, but I could also imagine that Star-Lord wouldn't want to risk blowing it because after he moves past his initial skepticism, he embraces the idea that this is his father because that's what he wanted so much. That's so much that he actually told friends of his when he was younger that his father was David Hasselhoff, shooting Knight Rider.
Which is awesome. That's awesome.
I will actually do that eventually. I don't know if this is the right time or not, but I have to give props to David Hasselhoff. I love that guy, but I especially love any actor who is willing to be the butt of jokes, and he does it consistently.
And he was the original Nick Fury.
He was. But also, even if you watch like the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, he loves stuff, even if it makes him the butt of the joke, he embraces it because he knows that a lot of people think of him as a joke at this point, and he just embraces it. I think that's him being a great sport, and I love him for that. Yeah, I never get tired of watching stuff with David Hasselhoff when he shows up, and he even did the end credits song.
I think the for me, like describing that relationship, it's the reason I love this movie so much, and I hold it equally with Guardians 1, is it's exploring the difference between the family you choose and the family that you're brought into, where one, you have the choice. Like it hits me really hard. Like I have sort of this family dynamic in real life that is not ideal. And then I have my friends that are just the greatest people on the earth. And those are the people that support me and I support. And I love, there's lines in this movie that don't beat you over the head with stuff. I finally found my family. Can't you understand that? I thought you already did. Things like that. Like, yes, this guy's your dad, sure. But, you chose us and we chose you. But
chosen family is definitely a theme for this one. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Matthew, you've been quiet.
I want to give everybody a chance to talk.
Before I tear into this.
No. No, I like Kurt Russell a lot. I always just see him as the guy from Big Trouble in Little China.
Well,
or Stargate.
Jack Burton.
The Thing.
Yeah. I've not seen The Thing, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Well, again, not a big horror movie.
Hey, at least I showed him Big Trouble in Little China. That counts for something.
I watched it on my own accord, but that's okay.
Everyone needs to see Big Trouble.
That should be a mandatory viewing.
Totally.
But
indeed.
But then again, I think the thing should be mandatory viewing too.
Well, it's a little terrifying if you're
it is
my dad and he's showing me all these movies when I'm 8 or 10 and like Starship Troopers and what was it?
Yeah, nice.
Star Trek.
Josh, look at you like it's terrifying. Yes.
RoboCop is another.
Yeah.
But it made me who I am today. I like the dad storyline in this one. I feel like it was a little forced at times, and I feel like he was really expository when he wrote it. Like there's a lot of like, oh, well, we don't know who your dad is. And then even the Sovereign's like, who's your dad? And I'm like, that's a little on the nose. And then we see him 5 minutes later. It's like, we could have just alluded to what Ego is. Like he just shows up and he saves everybody. Like you don't have to tell the viewer, hey, his dad's going to show up. We already saw him in the really first scene. And when he's with his mom, like you can guess that's his dad. I don't need to hear.
And he does have like funny little lines that make the viewer go, "Oh, this is definitely Peter's dad." Like, I got to take a whiz, after saying something important,
Yeah. But I don't know. I like the storyline. I don't know if I call it the heart of the movie, and I don't think it feels rushed at all. Like the Ego. I feel like Ego and Peter's arc is more fleshed out than the sudden like Yondu Peter thing at the end, which we already talked about. So
yeah, well, we have plenty more to say about that when we get to
it. Sure.
Yeah. Actually that was the next thing I wanted to talk about was, Yondu. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. That was a meme for a while, and it's but I think that one of the things I was going to say is we were talking about, just coming back real quick on the Star-Lord Ego. Like, I remember when I watched the movie and now on the rewatch, when I watched the movie the first time, I don't know who just said it. I didn't feel like the relationship was forced. Like they have forced. They have the scene where they're like playing catch, it's like, hey, shape your power. And he's playing catch with his dad. And, normally I pick up on that and I'll be like, gosh, these scenes are so contrived and blah, 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 blah. And I
still felt a little eye roll on that kind of stuff.
See, and when I saw it, I didn't.
That though. Well, because he brought that up earlier in the movie.
He had brought it up before, and then it was like, okay, we get it.
We also got to remember that Peter is sort of a simpleton. Like multiple occasions through all three of the movies and Infinity War, he's kind of a goofball, So him wanting to be childish and play catch with a glowing ball with his dad, I could totally see him just falling right into that trap,
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I won't even talk about. We'll get there when we get to Infinity War. Peter single-handedly ruining the anyway. But yeah, I think that that it leads us into Yondu. Stealing the movie and as the real father figure, leading up to, coming into Yondu and we talk about how, he gets kicked out of the Ravagers and you get a cliffhanger reunion between Stallone and Michael Rooker there. I would have loved like a John Lithgow quick 5 seconds. That would have just rounded out that triangle. But
anyone just lose,
I thought like the scene where they did you lose me?
Pause. Just it got choppy.
Yeah, it got choppy and your video stopped for a second and then it caught up. So we might need to pause.
Oh, am I good now?
Now you're there.
Yeah. It broke up for a quick second on my end. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you were saying John Lithgow.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll skip John Lithgow. Everybody got the cliffhanger reference, right? We've all seen cliffhanger. I mean, yeah. Okay. All right. Matthew hasn't seen.
Did you feel that scene with Sylvester Stallone with Yondu on that planet? It just kind of went on for a while and then didn't really lead to much except for the very, very, very end, I guess. I mean, I enjoyed it. I always love seeing Sly. But then the scene doesn't even stop because then we get the Golden People. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I know why why they set that up, but again, it's with Yondu. I mean, they really kind of, obviously they dove into the relationship between he and Peter, but they dove into Yondu himself a lot. But what I was going to say too is again, coming back to Yondu, it's, we get a lot of his backstory. But one of the things I was going to mention is in the whole Yondu scene and everything else, and it's like I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but like when they get rid of his little mohawk. And then they get and they take him back up to the ship, and then they're getting rid of the crew members. Like, I suddenly realized, like, right when you see Yondu, he's like strapping up his pants after after his little soiree in the brothel
like
there. And and that's the thing is there was a lot of harsh scenes, and I know we can get to them all, but like you think of the scene where they're like pouring alcohol all over Groot. I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but it all kind of ties into that first Yondu scene where he's like, he's strapping up his pants, and then he looks over at the android. She shuts herself off, and you see, and you could tell he's kind of like, geez, like there's no emotion with it, and that type of thing. And then that goes right into the Sylvester Stallone thing. But I think that what they did with Yondu's character and his side story, or what they did, I thought was pretty good. And I kind of wanted to see if you guys felt like, that overall thing by the end with Yondu, if he kind of stole the movie, or how do you guys feel about that?
Well, I mean, go ahead.
I was say, coming to Ben's question, he asked if we felt the scene went on a little long. I don't know that I would say that it went on a little long. Maybe it was the Sylvester Stallone cameo was a little shoehorned in. As for stealing the movie, during this rewatch, I would say that the Yondu Ravager arc is far more interesting than, the Peter ego. Like, because the whole movie was about Peter in the first film, and this one it's about him again. And it's like, well, we kind of already saw that. And we already know he's super powerful. Like, we could have, I don't know, it could have been more about the Ravagers. And I know there's a fair amount of it in the film. When I'm watching it now, I want to see more about the Ravagers, because I feel like there's more lore there than there is just Peter's history and his genealogy. So,
and it gets pretty violent too. Yeah. Like, you have all the people getting jettisoned into space, but then obviously.
Oh, I know. That's what I mean. Yeah, there's a lot of harshness in this particular movie. Like, a lot of more. Stuff. It'd be cool if they did like a Ravager TV show on Disney Plus, and they did it right. That would be interesting.
Well,
so, not knowing the lore, I wasn't missing any of that personally.
Well,
I don't know the comic lore, so
I did enjoy those scenes, and I do like the fact that they did have Stakar Ogord, who was Sylvester Stallone, and at the end when they show him again. Stakar and Aletta Ogord and Charlie 27 and Martinex. All of those are the original Guardians.
The original Guardians, yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Very cool.
So, I mean,
completely over my head. So
I knew Heather wouldn't get that because she's not into comics. I've often said I like the stories, but I don't really read the comics. But when I get into something, I have to study it. And because I'm a big fan of the stories in the MCU, I've studied the different Marvel characters just by reading about them, even though I haven't read the comics. So I still I recognized them immediately when I saw them. So I was just grateful to see them. The scene with Stakar at the opening scene, to me, it was okay because I was glad to see the character. And I'm not a huge fan of Sylvester Stallone, but I thought that he did a good job portraying Stakar.
You're a big fan of Hasselhoff, but not a fan of Stallone. What kind of gender?
Yeah, I was going to jump in on that too. Let's agree to disagree.
I liked seeing him. I like some of his movies, but I don't think he's a wonderful
Rocky
actor.
IV.
I still love what Robin Williams said about Sylvester Stallone doing Hamlet. To be or what?
Yeah, but Michelle Yeoh. I mean, that.
Oh yeah,
I'm just such a massive fan that was really cool to see her in that too.
Well, yeah, Bing Rames, yeah,
Bing Rames, yeah.
I thought that was all pretty cool.
I really wouldn't mind seeing them make a movie of the original Guardians. They could call it something else if they needed to, but seeing a movie featuring Stakar and Aletta and Martinex and just that would be that would be cool, but I don't.
That'd be like a Watchmen type of movie where you got like the OG crew and then, and then passing it off to the new crew.
It would kind of fit in with this day and age simply because we're getting a lot of stuff like this. We got the Guardians movies. Supergirl is ready to come out, and that's going to have Lobo in it. And if you've ever read the Lobo comics, it's also very similar to Guardians, where they have just really outlandish aliens in the background. Just anything you can think of, they'll put it out there.
Supergirl movie looks like a Guardians movie.
Yeah, and it should. It's James Gunn.
True.
It's been gunned. It's been James gunned.
But I'm not complaining because I love I love the Superman movie. So
yeah, we know. In every episode, we know.
So
sorry, Ben, you're new. We always make fun of Josh for this.
I haven't gotten Superman. I've only watched a couple of your DC stuff because I got so into your Marvel stuff. So I do got to go back and watch the DC stuff.
I was going to go into more of the other characters too, like Gamora, Nebula, the whole trauma thing, which we've talked about. I wanted to kind of get into all the other, all the other characters. We've already touched on it, but you got Gamora and Nebula. Again, we mentioned Rocket and Yondu. I mean, any of those types of relationships. I mean, the Gamora and Nebula, it's funny. I thought it was like, Nebula always wanted to best Gamora, but really that she, they're in the cave and then she's like, I just wanted a sister. And I was like, oh, that seemed kind of new to me, but that's where that relationship comes in, which she mentions in, later on in Endgame where, she's like, what are we now? And she's like, well, we were enemies and then we became sisters. So like, some of that stuff goes, but, speak a little bit about, Matthew, if you want to kick it off. Just about all the other relationships, because again, you've got all these little side stories and how everybody's, letting out. It's like a gigantic intervention, do like the whole middle part of the movie in essence.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like some of it's a little Disney-fied, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But again, I keep harping on the Yondu coming down as Mary Poppins, and he's like, he wasn't your father, or he was your father, but I'm your daddy. It's like,
I actually like that bit. I think for me, the whole, because like what you said about trafficking children, yeah, except from his point of view, he was hired to bring them to their father, which in and of itself is not trafficking. And then when he found out what was happening to them, he didn't deliver. That's why he didn't take Peter Quill to Ego. So I don't know if I'm fully in on the whole idea that he was actually trafficking children. From Stakar's point of view, yeah, he was. And that's why they
booted him,
shunned him from the Ravagers. I did like, maybe I'm just too sentimental, but I did like the whole thing about Yondu saying, he may have been your father, but I was your daddy, because he was. Like, it's anyone can have a kid,
sure,
but not every guy can be someone's.
But apparently he was really mean and loud too.
He was
so
I'm not saying he was a great dad.
They should have done a better job with that whole dynamic, because in the first one he's just after Peter the whole time, but obviously you find out he was never going to kill him. They say several times he's in soft spots, but Peter's reaction in that moment at the end, it's just like, really? I didn't know you cared about him that much, but
it might have been a bit much or a bit quick.
It was a little sugar-coated.
Yeah, but I still enjoyed it, and and maybe it's because of Michael Rooker's performance.
Well, I want to Matthew, finish your point.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. But with the whole, I don't know if Disney-fied is the real term that I would use, but suddenly, to your point, you said Nebula suddenly wants to be her sister, when it's very apparent in the first film she just wants to kill Gamora because she's jealous of her. And I feel like that was, again, it feels like he retconned a lot of their relationships that he built up in the first one to make it seem more family oriented, because that's the message that this movie's trying to get across. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like that the relationships went that way. It just was interjected in a way where the writing wasn't posturing these characters towards that relationship from the first.
I get you. It's dismissive of what they started with. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
I see what you're saying, but I do feel the Gamora Nebula felt a little more organic because yes, Nebula was definitely a bad guy in the first film. And this one, she's struggling with that a little bit. And again, it did happen kind of fast because a lot of this movie, a lot of the stuff that pushes forward in the story happens almost in the third act, whereas it kind of just fumbles around a little bit here and there. Fun stuff. I love it. But I agree with you on one aspect of their relationship, but I do think this was the movie to do that, to kind of get them and they're really not that well off together by the end of the movie. Nebula's still taking off, but yeah.
But again, I like the direction that he takes them. It's just how he gets there is just like, it's like a bullet train. It's almost too fast and unearned. Yeah. And we only appreciate it now in hindsight because of what we see in later movies. And I mean,
that's a really good point. Yeah. So you see where the story goes with them. Yeah. That's a great point. In hindsight, it makes more sense now. Yeah. Sorry.
But I do like, I think the only one that really feels organic is the Kurt Russell Peter Quill one. And it's also the most boring one to watch. Again, I like a good father-son bonding storyline, but it's also, it's the least interesting part of the movie until the end, when the evil plan is revealed. So
yeah. I did take a note of that. I mean, I've already gushed about Kurt Russell. He's such a phenomenal actor, but that scene in particular, when he's telling Peter his plan, and then he talks about how it broke his heart to put that tumor in Meredith's skull, and Peter, of course, is like, what?
And we all were like,
we were all.
And Kurt Russell's like, I know that sounds bad, and then Peter, of course, shoots him. But that scene right after that, first he goes, the line is, "Who in the hell do you think you are?" But the way he delivers it is, first he goes, "Who?" And the way he says it, I actually thought he was going like woo, like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, because I thought that's what he was going to do. But then his face, I mean, what you can see of it, because half of it's blown away, but his face just contorts and he's like, "Who in the hell?" And I freaked out in the movie. I was like, oh my God, just seeing Kurt Russell that angry.
Yeah, the facade is off right there.
Yeah. And then, of course, he turns into David Hasselhoff, and David Hasselhoff looks angry, which is like, oh my God. Now I've seen a pissed off Kurt Russell and a pissed off David Hasselhoff.
He's such a great casting choice because no one ever wants to see Kurt Russell as a bad guy because he's so charismatic and likable. He's always been so likable. I know he's probably played a bad guy at some point, but it's such a great choice because he's so charming all the way through this movie until right then. Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I've just seen too many movies. Like, the more charming they make the character, the more suspicious I start to get as I watch the movie. And so they really played up, like how he was really trying to.
But that's one of the things.
Convince Peter. To me, that's it's a foreshadowing, but it's like,
you're right.
Unnecessary,
but it makes you, because it's Kurt Russell, it makes you want to go, please don't be what I think you are.
Yeah. But also,
I wanted him to be the dad from Sky High. That's what I wanted. I wanted the commander. I mean, that was 12 years. That was 2005. That movie came out. Can you believe that? But
underrated.
I want him to be like, Peter, you will be, and buying him an Xbox. That would have been great.
But I have mentioned in this show before, and this is a perfect example of it. I love it when an actor goes against type, and Kurt Russell definitely goes against type. Harrison Ford has done it a couple of times. He's almost always a good guy. He was, women would swoon over him when he was younger. Some probably still do now. And so he did a couple of movies like What Lies Beneath, where he was a bad guy.
Oh, he's so good as a bad guy in that movie, man. He's so good.
The problem with that was just the movie. I didn't like the movie, but he did a good job. And this is going before everyone's time, but one of my favorite examples is Henry Fonda in Once Upon a Time in the West, because Henry Fonda was the Harrison Ford before Harrison Ford. Women loved him. He had the bright blue eyes. He was always a good guy, and then he plays Frank. So, and if you haven't seen it, you need to go and watch that, because that movie is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to see how many more times I can say amazing in this.